some of the challenges are sort of obvious. People that insist on the idea that any township mongrel is an AfriCanis. The problem with that is it puts the conservation process under threat. It threatens the conservation process. So that's quite a serious thing. I know a lot of people sometimes get upset with us on in the group when we're responding on the Facebook group. You know, they would go to a rescue kennel, and one of the popular things to do is to give a dog a breed status. So the rescue kennels very frequently call any township rescue dog, they call an AfriCanis. And then they would tell the person that, oh, when they see this lovely dog, which is a crossbreed, a mixed breed, they say, what breed is it? And they'd say, oh no, this is an AfriCanis. Now, you know, they're not going to breed with the dog, so that is not the biggest problem. But the problem it comes in that when they do face breeding stock AfriCanis, there is then this idea that it's not a significant animal. It is a mutt, and you can get any one of those at any shelter, and that's not the case. So it does water down the efforts of the Conservation Society. It's very important if we want to maintain the genetic material that we have identified in these in the research that the Galants and Dr. Kusel have done with this breed, or this Landrace. Sorry. It's very important that we maintain the integrity of identifying the original stock. And so, having said that, there is no registry. The Landrace doesn't have a registry. The registry is open. Registries are something that you would find in kennel unions, but there is record keeping. So there is a significant body of records available. As I said, genetically 7,000 samples. So there's a significant record of dogs from specific kraals, from specific locations, and that we can trace parentage of individual dogs to dogs that we have genetically identified as specifically AfriCanis. The AfriCanis has a slightly different marker to modern dog breeds, and is genetically identifiable as different from modern dog breeds. So what exactly those markers mean, more research needs to be done. For that, we would always be open to sponsorships from anybody who's interested in sponsoring something that would tell us more about the heritage value that these animals actually carry in their bloodlines. But the important thing is to separate that kind of myth of the AfriCanis, the indigenous dog, versus the township mongrel AfriCanis. It's quite important to be specific on that, and I know a lot of people get upset when they think they've got an AfriCanis, and they come onto the group and they say, I've got an AfriCanis, I picked it up at the local SPCA, and they tell me it's an AfriCanis. So, you've got a lovely dog, a dog that you seem to be very fond of, and looks, by all accounts, an absolutely superb animal, but it's not an AfriCanis. It's not an AfriCanis if you can't identify it from its founding stock, or with its founding stock. So if you don't know who its parents are, there's no way you can tell whether it's an AfriCanis or not. That, coupled with the idea that dogs, when they're left to their own breeding devices, will start approximating like any animal, but dogs do this extremely effectively. Dogs are, in fact, the animal on this planet with the greatest morphological range of any other species of animal on this planet. There is a greater range in the shape, colors, look in dogs than any other animal species on this planet. So dogs, when they are left to their own devices, morph very quickly into a shape that is suitable in that context. And so you will very easily find dogs that have an AfriCanis look to them emerging when there is no breeding standard taking place, no controlled breeding taking place, with the result that you get if you allow dogs over a number of generations to breed indiscriminately, you approximate an AfriCanis shape and look quite quickly. So, you know, the important thing in this context is to always not trust shape. Shape in AfriCanis is something that is almost insignificant. You know, the coat colour, coat length. I sometimes have fights with or arguments. I don't actually physically fight anybody, but arguments with people in the society themselves when they start looking at let's say a new pup comes to the fore, and somebody posts this pic of their beautiful indigenous AfriCanis pup, and then people will say things like, "Oh, what a lovely coat." And I always say it's extremely important we don't fixate on things like that. No matter how beautiful that coat might be, we need to maintain the discipline of making sure we are always looking at a value and not an aesthetic. The value of these dogs, the value principles that we place around their shape of mind and shape of body, those are the important issues with the conservation of this dog. Something like coat colour, the look of the dog, those are irrelevant, and we should not be highlighting those when we are talking about each other's dogs even. You know, we should be highlighting how well the dogs perform. And when we see people showing videos of their dogs performing livestock guarding traits, for example, that's something that is very special. You have a look at and you say, man, that dog is performing absolutely perfectly. That dog is responding to these goats that are getting obstreperous. It's responding in absolutely the perfect way. You know, that's something that's special. The coat colour, whatever, you know, it's irrelevant. And we need to, when we're talking amongst ourselves about, you know, wow, this dog looks great, or, you know, it's important that we are maintaining our discussions based on the values, because that is the most significant thing about these animals. And that is the one thing that you would always be able to tell as different between a township mutt and a genuine AfriCanis, is the way these dogs' minds work. Their body shape is one thing, their coat length is one thing, you know, but the way their minds work is something that is absolutely unique. You won't find that anywhere else. All these dogs have known parents. They all come from known stock, which is slightly different when you get to a little dog like Tabiso that we picked up as a township special. You know, I don't know, I can't even tell you what dog she is. You know, I've looked at her for hours, and she's a lovely little dog. I'm so fond of her, but I can't even tell you what breed she's a mix of. Her character is so diverse, it's all over the place, but it doesn't stop her being a stunning dog, by the way. I mean, she's a gorgeous little thing, but she's very different to these dogs. These dogs, all of them's parentage is known. You know, all of them come from known stock. So that is the fundamental difference. When you talk of this dog is an AfriCanis, you've got to know where it comes from. Is the important thing is to know whether, if you breed with this dog, are you breeding with something, you know, are you maintaining a genetic stock that you can trust, you know? And if you're not, you're in trouble of violating the genetic material that we're trying to maintain, and that defeats the purpose of a conservation society. That's a very important question, and it's very specific. The AfriCanis Society has no intention of standardizing the look of this dog, because this dog has evolved really through the inset of the indigenous custodians. To come along and say, no, it should look like this, would be a ridiculous intervention. It would serve absolutely no purpose whatsoever. The development of this dog going forward really is, again, should be in the hands of the indigenous custodians, where these dogs originate from, not people like me who fancy them and might have a litter or two every now and then, we are not the people that should be saying what this dog should look like. The indigenous custodians are the ones that are the people that have got this dog so in such an efficient manner to this point in their history. So there is no grounds, even no ambition and no grounds to standardize the landrace, and there is also no ambition to transform it into a breed. In other words, to start registering it. I mentioned the way that you register a breed previously, where you identify your founding stock, you close that stock. All of that would be fixing these dogs into a genetic dead end again, which we have no ambition to do that with these animals whatsoever. Our sole purpose with these animals is to try and maintain this genetic material as as true to original as we can achieve. And there is a sort of roundabout purpose to that as well, because modern dogdom has condemned dogs to such an extent that in a couple of years, I don't know, maybe a couple of decades, we will get to a point where you will have to be finding some original material, some original genetic material like these dogs have to offer, to reintroduce into specific breeds, to just get them back on track to be healthy and self-sustainable animals again. Because we already have dogs like bulldogs that, there's some lovely bulldogs out there. People fall in love with their dogs. They're lovely dogs, but they are not self-sustainable any longer. They are dogs that require constant medical support, constant human interaction just to keep them alive, and we will have to, at some stage, bring some original ancient genetic material like these dogs carry back into the lines, just to save dogs, So yes, there's no intention to form a specific breed. By doing so, we would subject ourselves to the kennel union processes of breeding. That's a dead end. We would subject ourselves to caricature breeding. That's a horrific process. So the most important thing that we can do is to maintain the origins and try and stay true to these origins as closely as possible. And that really means understanding and working with indigenous custodians, as much as possible. And that's why I would like, for these dogs to be recognized as valuable, and not to sort of lose, the essential character that they have. They are introduced very successfully even into modern farming practices as livestock guarding dogs, extremely successfully. So that's really where the best future of these dogs lies. In purpose, can we maintain purposes that this dog's character fits so well? And if we can maintain those purposes, then there is no better dog. There is absolutely no better dog on this planet if we can find, and maintain these purposes.